Detectives, Lieutenant Williams. Oh, yes, Mr. Bowen. What can I do for you? Yes, I saw the story. Police protection.
Yes, Lieutenant. I have reason to believe my life is in danger from this man Saxton. Mine and those of a couple of other men. One is a Roger Nash, and the other I believe you know, Dan Adams.
The story of Wayne Saxton's escape from the sanitarium broke on the morning of a day I'd planned to spend fishing off the coast, and I'd been looking forward to that day too long to change my plans. Until his escape, I'd almost forgotten about Saxton and the trouble he'd gotten himself into in Japan during the Korean War. Saxton, a lieutenant with access to highly classified information, had become involved with a girl who turned out to be an enemy agent. I'd investigated the case for naval intelligence. Although there was no evidence that Saxton had violated security regulations, he had been found to be emotionally and psychologically unsuited for further service and was forced to resign his commission. For that, he blamed three men: his commanding officer, a friend who had informed on him, and me. Eventually, the delusion manifested itself in threats, and Saxton was confined to an institution. The search for the escaped man centered in Balboa Park in San Diego, where several persons reported seeing a man answering Saxton's description. Although the story of Saxton's dismissal from the Navy was rehashed, there was no mention of his threat against the men he blamed for ruining his career. It was late evening by the time I returned to the yacht basin. As far as I knew, Saxton was still at large. Don't get it, Bruce.
You almost did.
How long was Saxton in that sanitarium?
Well, he went in just a few months after he was kicked out of the Navy.
You have any idea how he got hold of a gun in there?
No. But that wouldn't have been much of a trick. The security regulations there are pretty relaxed.
Somebody had to take it into him. Saxton's married, isn't he?
Yeah. But San Remo's a private sanitarium. His wife had him committed. If for any reason she wanted him out, all she'd have to do is go get him.
Is there anybody else that could have gotten a gun to him?
We're checking on a list of his friends.
Well, while you're at it, don't forget his enemies. The next morning, the newspapers had the story of the shooting. The slug Lieutenant Allen had dug from the dock at the yacht basin matched the bullet taken from the wall of the room in the sanitarium. To the newspapers, Wayne Saxton was no longer just a potentially dangerous mental patient. Now he was being billed as a kill-crazy gunman and a mad sniper. Come on in.
Oh.
Hi, Roger.
Dan, how are you?
Fine, thanks. Sit down.
Oh, no, thanks. I I just stopped by to see how you were making out after last night. According to the newspapers, it was a close one.
That was close enough.
You know, I'm the one he should be gunning for.
Well, he may get around to you.
Maybe I've got it coming. You and Ted Bowen were just doing a job, but I was the one who squealed on him about that Mata Hari he was running around with.
Oh, excuse me. Adams. Oh, yes. Yeah? Well, Roger Nash is with me now. All right, be right over. Right. Oh, there's Ted Bowen. He wants to see me. How about coming along?
Oh, can't do. I've got a living to make. Tell Ted I'll see him later. Dan, it's been real good seeing you.
You're almost too late.
Take care.
Yeah.
Mr. Adams?
Yes, that's right.
I'm Linda Bowen.
How do you do?
Ted's in the library. Ted said that Roger Nash was with you when he telephoned. I thought he might come along.
Oh, he had to go to work. I didn't know you were friends of Roger's.
Oh, Ted and I see him occasionally.
Thank you.
Even though I asked Lieutenant Williams for police protection, I wasn't really concerned until I heard what happened to you last night.
So?
I think it's time we did something.
There's nothing we can do the police aren't already doing.
I'm not so sure.
You have something in mind?
Yes, that you go and see Saxton's wife. Oh, I know. The police have questioned her, and she says she doesn't know where Saxton is.
Well, maybe she doesn't know, but even if she does, she isn't likely to tell me.
She might. If you could convince her that we want to help Saxton.
How?
With the best psychiatric treatment money can buy. I'll underwrite it. If he's in contact with Saxton and can persuade him to give himself up, and this check should prove my good faith.
Oh, should prove something.
Will you go and talk to Mrs. Saxton?
I don't think it'll do any good.
It can't do any harm.
And where'll I find her?
I understand she works in the office of the old Globe Theater in Balboa Park.
I'll let you know what she has to say. When I inquired about Mrs. Saxton, one of the actors in the company pointed her out to me. Mrs. Saxton?
Yes?
My name's Adams, Dan Adams, and the man who...
I know who you are, Mr. Adams. And if you're here to ask about Wayne, you're wasting your time. I've told the police everything I know, which is exactly nothing.
You have no idea where your husband's hiding out. Well?
No, not the slightest. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Why did you hesitate? Are you hiding something?
Let me go. You've got no right to question me.
No, I haven't, but the police have. Should I tell them to ask you a few more questions?
Go ahead. I'm sure you would anyway.
Well, maybe not.
Do you mean that?
Look, Mrs. Saxton, all I care about is stopping your husband from killing Ted Bowen, Roger Nash, or me. Now, it makes no difference to me how that's done or who does it, the police or anybody else.
All right. I've got to talk to someone. Might as well be you. Wayne called me a couple of hours ago. He wants to see me today after work.
Why?
He wants money.
What'd you tell him?
I didn't get a chance to tell him anything.
Does he actually believe you're going to bring him some money?
He trusts me. I guess I'm about the only person he does trust.
Do you plan to meet him?
Yes, I guess so. I don't know. But not to give him any money. To try to make him give himself up.
Where did he tell you he'd meet you?
Mr. Adams, help me. I love Wayne. I want him to get well. And he can. I know he can. But not if he's trapped like some wild animal. I know what you're thinking. He is a wild animal.
That's not what I'm thinking at all.
Then you'll help me?
You know the police are watching you, don't you?
So does Wayne. I'm supposed to go home, then slip back here. Please, Mr. Adams, give me this chance with Wayne. You can wait out of sight while I talk to him.
Well, what if he won't listen to you?
Then you can do anything you have to do to stop him.
Well, all right. Maybe I'm being foolish. I'll be here.
Thanks.
After seeing Julie Saxton, I went back to the Bowen house. Roger Nash was there. He had no objections to the way I'd handled the situation, but Bowen did.
I don't think you should have made any promises about not calling in the police. If Julie Saxton's meeting her husband, the police should be informed and be there to catch him.
Well, it's too late for that now.
Why is it?
I gave Julie Saxton my word.
Your word, Dan, not mine.
Look, you sent me to see her. I was speaking for the three of us.
Dan's right, Ted.
Look, if I'm not sure you won't tell the police about this, Ted, I'll have to call Julie Saxton and warn her.
Good Lord, Dan, you're treating Saxton as if he were playing some sort of a harmless game. He's insane. He's sworn to kill us. He's already tried to kill you.
If you're going to tell the police, I want to know it right now.
All right. I won't interfere. Handle it your way. But if you meet Saxton and something goes wrong, it's your responsibility. Remember that.
Well, if I meet Saxton and something goes wrong, I probably won't be in any condition to care.
I just don't understand you at all, Dan. You're the last person in the world I would thought would go barging off on his own like this.
It was my fault, Lieutenant.
Oh, what difference does it make whose fault it was? Let's quit beating a dead horse, Bruce. If you want me to say I was wrong, all right, I'll say it. I was wrong.
Well, that doesn't help much.
It doesn't help at all, because it doesn't tell us why I was wrong.
What are you getting at?
Well, just this. What if Wayne Saxton isn't the one we should really be looking for?
What?
What if Saxton isn't the one that took the shot at me at the boat basin last night, or the shot at Julie up in the park?
Come off it, Dan. The slug I dug out of the dock matches the slug I took out of the wall of Saxton's room at the sanitarium. They were both fired from the same gun, a Luger.
That doesn't mean they were fired by the same person.
Who else is there?
The person who helped Saxton escape. The person who could be using him to kill Bowen or Nash or me, and for reasons that have nothing to do with Saxton.
It just doesn't make sense.
Well, it's the only thing that explains what's been going on.
Like what?
Like this. Why would Saxton call his wife and ask her to meet him and bring him some money? Does that sound like a psychotic killer to you? It doesn't to me.
All right, what does it sound like?
A frightened man who doesn't want to kill, just run. A guy that wants to buy a bus ticket out of town.
I don't get you, Dan.
And another thing. You can't tell me that Saxton called his wife, the one person in the world he trusts, asked her to meet him up in that park and then tried to kill her for no reason at all.
I told you before, Saxton doesn't need reasons.
Even insanity has some kind of logic to it, and there's nothing logical about...
Lieutenant Williams. Yes, Martin. What? When? Yeah. Yeah, I'm on my way. It's trouble, Bruce. If you're looking for logic, Dan, try this. Saxton just killed Theodore Bowen.
With the news of Bowen's murder, the bottom dropped out of my stomach. All I could think of was the last thing Bowen had said to me, that if anything went wrong because I didn't call in the police to help take Saxton, it was my responsibility. He told me to remember it. I wasn't likely to forget. Linda Bowen told us the story. She was in the living room when she heard angry voices in the library. Rushing to the room, she'd heard 2 shots. As she entered, she saw Wayne Saxton running out through the French doors to the terrace. Making his escape, Saxton had tripped over a flower box at the edge of the terrace and had lost his gun.
That'll be all for now, Mrs. Bowen.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Bowen.
It's not your fault.
I've got to take Mrs. Saxton home now, if it's all right with you.
It's fine with me. You saw this, didn't you?
Oh, yes, I saw it. It's very cooperative of Saxton to leave it behind for you, isn't it?
Go on. Try to get some rest.
You won't leave.
No, not just yet. I guess we should have listened to Ted when he wanted you to call in the police.
Yeah, it looks that way.
Well, I don't think we should be too rough on ourselves. We had no reason to believe that Wayne would come out shooting up there in the park. I can't tell you how sorry I am about this, Julie.
Thanks, Roger.
Oh, that's right. You two know each other.
Yeah, it's from when Wayne and I were in the Navy together. If you'll excuse me, I'll go in and see if I can give Lieutenant Williams a hand.
Julie, is it all right if I put you in a cab at the first stand, let them take you home?
Of course.
have to deep six you, but you shouldn't have crossed me when I helped you get out of San Remo.
Get up.
We're going for a little boat ride. Only you aren't coming back. I'm going to make sure they never find you, Saxton. Then everybody will be talking about how you escaped clean as a whistle and got away with murder. Let's go.
Two men who could give us a first-hand account of what had happened were dead. But Lieutenant Williams and I got a pretty good second-hand account from Linda Bowen a few hours later.
I loved Roger. I wanted to divorce Ted so I could marry him. But I guess he wanted Ted's money as much as he wanted me.
Nash smuggled Saxton that gun into the sanitarium.
Yes. After he escaped, they met at the tower in the park. He told Roger he had no intentions of carrying out his threats.
So Nash jumped him, tied him up, and carried on. He had to keep Saxton alive until after he killed Bowen. And he took those shots at Julie Saxton in the park to create the illusion that Saxton was still on the loose.
Yes, yes, yes! Now will you leave me alone?
Mrs. Bowen, you're about to find out just how alone a person can be. Where are you going?
Home.
Oh, no, you don't. Not until you've answered a few questions yourself.
Such as?
Now, don't be so coy. I'm in the dark and you know it. Just what made you follow Nash after he left the Bowen house?
Well, it's something he said just as I was leaving to take Julie Saxton home.
Like what?
Well, I can't quote him exactly. But what he said indicated that he knew what happened while Julie and I were waiting for Saxton outside the Globe Theater. Now, the only way he could have known that was to have been there himself.
That's it?
Oh, yeah, that's it. What's so funny?
Picture of you following Nash.
That's funny?
When I phoned Nash to come over to the Bowen house after Bowen was killed, I told him about the shooting in the park.
You what?
The fact that he knew about the shooting didn't prove a thing. You were right, but for the wrong reason.